Hello ladies and gentlemen, Top Hat Gaming Man here, and it is that time of month again to answer the fantastic questions from all of my lovely patrons. You see, I have a number of individuals who regularly support this channel by offering regular Patreon donations. So if you would like to become involved in these Q&As, you can donate as little as just $1 a month to support this fine channel, and you are guaranteed to have your questions read out and answered here. So today I have my friend Luke Street assisting me with the Q&A. So I've actually got someone to read out the questions to me for a change, which would be lovely. You looking forward to doing that, Luke?
No.
Why not? Why?
I don't mind being helpful.
Okay,
it's okay.
Good,
it's all right.
good. So yes, let's get on with this Q&A.
Okay, so you've set me up some questions on your wonderful CPC 464.
I have
here.
indeed. Yes.
So I'll be reading the questions off of here.
Well, no. Well, let's not go that far. There's a few questions up on the monitor, but sadly that's just for aesthetics. Because if you actually scroll down on an Amstrad CPC 464, because it's used for coding in BASIC, if you also scroll down, there'd just be a blue screen, because if you scroll back up, then all of those questions would disappear. Basically, I still need to do a Windows 10 update on the hardware. It keeps asking me for one all the time, and I've not got around to doing one. So
this is useless.
It's completely useless.
And that's why you've set up this lovely laptop down here.
Yes, this to kind of trick the audience. So yes, there's a laptop down there.
Okay, so we'll be going from that. That's fine.
So anyway, as a reward for helping me today, I'm going to let you ask the first question before we even get to the lovely patrons. So, what have you got to ask me?
Well, thanks for putting me on the spot.
Okay.
First of all, that's awful. Okay, let's think. Okay, I was going through some of your comments.
Yes.
In some of your videos, because I often do, just to
laugh
at the hate.
Got to be nosy.
Yeah. You get quite a lot of abuse.
I do indeed.
It amuses me.
Yes.
So that is what I was doing, and I noticed a few comments that kept on popping up quite a lot about your views on the Wii U.
Yes, the Wii U.
And
I do like the Wii U.
And the comparisons between that and the Sega Saturn.
Okay. Yes.
And your views on that. So would you like to kind of go into that a bit more? Bear in mind, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, basically Luke has noticed I do get triggered regarding this one quite a lot, because this is a comment I get all the time. Basically, when I promote the Wii U and talk about some of its successes, I often get people in the comment section compare it to the Sega Dreamcast and the Sega Saturn. People saying, yes, the Wii U is the modern Dreamcast, or it's the Saturn of today. And personally, I don't really agree with that. I think the only comparisons you can really make between the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast linked to the Wii U is all three platforms sold quite badly, and I suppose that's where the comparisons end. And I suppose all three of them are quite good as well. But apart from that, it's almost a little bit of an insult to the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast to put it in the same bracket as the Wii U. Like, personally, I put the Wii U way down below the Saturn and the Dreamcast. Although I like all three, I wouldn't put it in the same league. I just wouldn't.
Well, that's quite interesting actually, because I would have thought, because after speaking to you quite a lot as we do, I wouldn't have thought that was the case. So yeah, it's nice to know otherwise.
I'd put the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast and the Wii U all within the top bracket of consoles, along with the obvious ones like the Sony PlayStation, the Super Nintendo, the Mega Drive and all that. But I'd obviously put the Wii U right at the bottom of that list, and then I'd put the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast like halfway up that list. Okay. So the Wii U as a system was obviously better than things like the Atari Jaguar and 3DO and Philips CDI and systems like that, I suppose. But it's not up there with the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast, because they've got huge, fantastic libraries of games. The Wii U has got a small but decent library of games, I suppose a little bit like the Nintendo 64. So really, I'd say the Wii U is the Nintendo 64 of today, a small, quality library, but not a lot to offer outside of that.
Yeah, I suppose that makes a lot of sense. It's the worst of the best consoles.
Exactly, a bit like the Nintendo 64 as well. I would say, the worst of the best, yes. Whereas the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast aren't the worst of the best, they're like the mediocre of the best. Okay. Does that make sense?
It makes some sense. That's all right.
So let's get on to the actual peoples. Let's see what the people have to ask.
I'll pull this up onto screen. There we go. So you can see this lovely laptop. Okay, so the first question that we have here is from Ian A. Chapman.
Yes.
And he asks, considering the total monetary value of your collection, is it possible to adequately insure your collection, or would it just make your premiums too high?
No, it's not too high at all. It is all fully insured. It's just part of my home insurance, and it's actually insured as something ludicrous. Like, I can own something like £1 million worth of games before the premium goes up. So not at all.
You're not quite there yet.
No, it's probably less than £40,000 worth of games if I was to guess. So yes, I'm like over insured for a very long time. So yeah, next question.
Okay. Andrew Byzantsky asks, in your collecting experience, how often do you import games? If so, do you own Japanese versions of the systems you import for, or do you use system modifications and adapters?
At this phase, I find myself importing games very, very regularly, especially from Japan and the United States. My only gripe with it is the ridiculous trade tariffs I'm expected to pay, just because we're one of those pitiful countries who are currently a member of the European Union, and all the countries in the European Union have basically put an embargo on trade with everywhere else. Yeah. So at the moment, as Britain's in the EU, that I'm kind of like put in a little box, and I'm basically trying coaxed into buying from countries like Germany and France and Italy and all that, and I don't really like trading with them, if I'm honest. So
you're almost having to pay scalping prices just to get things into the country.
Exactly, it's a shame. So as soon as we're out of the European Union, hopefully we'll be able to get better tariff deals with Japan and the United States, which would be nice. But in terms of the second half of the question, it depends on which system. I do own like an American PlayStation 2, for example, to play American like PS1 and American PS2 games, but certain things I use adapters. Like I've got adapters for my Super Nintendo, my Nintendo 64, and quite a few other consoles where I can play cartridges from other regions. So it really depends on which system. So next.
Okay, we've got a question from the Bitvault. You mentioned your love for video game music in a few of your early videos on Secret of Mana and the Mega Man series. What to you makes a video game soundtrack so memorable that you want to return to it time and time again? To put it another way, do you have an objective set of criteria that make a good video game soundtrack?
Okay, I've talked about this before on the channel. I actually suffer from a semi-rare condition known as musical anhedonia, and for those who aren't very aware, anhedonia is a word which means the polar opposite of hedonism. So as in someone who really loves something. If you've got an anhedonia, it means you hate something. I don't actually hate music, that's just the technical term for it. I'm more indifferent. Basically, my reward receptors do not respond well to music. Music just kind of exists. However, music can still enhance my gameplay experiences a lot. Mm-hmm. It's not that I necessarily enjoy the music. However, if the music can adequately make a game more atmospheric. Yeah. So the music has got to basically enhance the atmosphere of a game, and it
complements the atmosphere.
Exactly. So like Secret of Mana would be a good example of that. I would say, as they've stated. So next question, because I've got a lot to get through.
Okay, where are we? David Mountford asks, the video game industry as it is has changed for better or worse over the last 30 years. If you could pick a single moment, what event or decision changed consoles into the ones we know today, which are scaled down PCs and all-in-one entertainment centres with long loading times and huge installations? We've done a video on this, haven't we?
I've talked about this so much. It's the original Xbox. That changed the course of gaming. That's when it basically stopped trying to emulate the arcade, and they just became underpowered computers, like all-in-one multimedia centres. Yeah. Systems like the CDI tried to do it before but just failed, but the Xbox original put us on that track, and then we eventually got to the stage, I suppose, with the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Okay,
next question.
Okay, Kevin Feely says, what can we expect handheld around the world presents the TurboGrafx Express GT? Or when can we expect it? I remember seeing it in the glass display at Toys R Us. It was $399 in 1990. It was unattainable, yet it was right there.
Basically, PC Engine GT. I'd really like to get my hands on one. I'd really like to get my hands on one of those. However, it's ridiculously expensive. So it's basically whenever I'm feeling generous towards myself and want to spend like £400 on a handheld. So
it's completely retained its price then, essentially.
Yeah, it's gone up in price, and the library of games quite expensive as well. So yes, next question.
Ouch. This one is from Slopes Game Room.
Ah, yes.
Why do retro collectors hate flippers but love retro game shops? Surely they do the same thing, right? In my experience, flippers are often cheaper.
It's just a case of having more respect for people who are specialists in games. Like most people who own a retro game store only own a retro game store because they are so passionate on the subject. Whereas a general flipper, for example, is basically just some twat who sells anything in order to get money. So if someone's got a specific bespoke retro gaming shop, it's because they love games, because they're very hard to maintain and very hard to make money off. So I'd rather give my money to someone who's passionate about games rather than someone who is going to hinder me collecting games instead to some degree, because they're buying up games and they don't know anything about them. They're just trying to turn a profit. And on top of that as well, I like to be able to go somewhere and peruse games in depth. I can't do that from the general bastard who sticks second-hand games on Facebook or eBay. Just can't do that. So they're giving me a good tactile, concrete experience where the general flipper's not delivering that at all.
Okay.
So that's how I feel about that. Next one, please.
Yeah. This question is from Michael Rogers, and it's a long one, so I'll stutter through it.
Try and read it as fast as you can so you can get through this.
When you compare the Sega Saturn versus the Sega Dreamcast as the most underrated console, you cite the fact that many Saturn games are not available elsewhere as the reason the Saturn is more underrated. If there was no such thing as the later port, so Saturn exclusives and Dreamcast exclusives, on release date at the time, which do you view to be more underrated and why? Arcade conversions can count as exclusives. As it seems to me, although consensus is the Dreamcast was better as a gaming platform, especially in the West, it was more the fact that Sega pawned its best assets to the likes of Acclaim that are the reason it's not viewed as desirable now.
Personally, I just prefer the Sega Saturn library, even if we're taking exclusives out of it. I just feel there's more choice. The Dreamcast, to me, I know there are amazing games, like you've got the two Shenmue games, Jet Set Radio, the Sonic Adventure games, so yeah, I'm really selling the system actually just by mentioning these titles. However, for me, it just feels like it's the fighter console. Like the majority of the library and the games people love on the Dreamcast are the fighters, whereas I'll say I prefer the Saturn based on the fact that there's more big JRPGs on the Saturn, in my opinion, than on the Dreamcast, although that's arguable as well. So it's really hard. They're neck and neck, those systems, they really are. So I can't really even give a definitive answer on that one.
Personally, you think that they're too comparable to compare.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So next one.
Okay, this question is from Sean Johnson. Was the PlayStation 1 popular in Europe, or did it not pick up steam until closer to the release of the PlayStation 2?
Well, as you all know, it was ridiculously popular. It was by far the most popular system that had ever been released in Europe at the time. And I'm talking by a country mile. Like, they were everywhere, wasn't they? They still are everywhere. Like, I've mentioned this before on the channel actually, well I might have done, I'm not quite sure. But PlayStations and PS2s in Europe, they're pretty much worthless, aren't they? Because they're so common. Whereas if you go to the United States, it's actually bloody expensive to get a PlayStation 2. Like, you're looking to pay £50-60.
Wow, okay, I didn't know that.
So yes, I think they're more common here than they are elsewhere. So that's from my experience, like outrageously popular. So that's the answer to that one.
I think I've got two in my loft. Actually.
I've got them coming out my ears, PS1s. Like, again, I've got them bloody everywhere because they're just too many of them.
Stop buying bundles.
I know, yes, I have now, but I still can't get rid of PS1. So what's the next question?
This one's from Audrey Sampson.
Yes.
This is a broad question.
Okay.
What game was the most impactful game release of all time?
Okay, I think a lot of people probably say Super Mario Bros. Based on it brought story into the game, and it was pretty much the catalyst to bringing side-scrollers into the living room.
Okay.
However, at the time, I think that really only impacted North America and Japan. Like, it proper penetrated them more than it did other regions. So I'm going to go with Pac-Man on this one, as it essentially invented the gaming mascot, which was very influential, and it was a game that was marketed towards not only men but women as well. So I think that was pretty important. Yeah. And it was only the second game what became a household name, I believe, after Space Invaders. So I'm going to say Pac-Man.
Okay.
Plus, it was a worldwide success. It wasn't a regional success.
Well, that's quite interesting, actually. I wouldn't have thought you'd pick that.
Okay.
So, yeah, good. Nice.
Next.
This question is from Matthew Porter.
Okay.
Would you rather have bionic arms, super strength, or bionic legs, super speed and jumping?
Well,
I like this question.
it's very abstract, isn't it? I'm going to go with super arms rather than legs.
To carry your collection.
I just feel like I could do a lot more with powerful arms than powerful legs. But I was actually contemplating the other day, what would I prefer if my legs got cut off or my arms got cut off? And I definitely decided to myself, definitely my legs. Because I could just do a lot more with my arms. I could still carry on playing games, I could write, all sorts. Whereas, and it would give me an excuse to be a bit lazy as well, wouldn't it? If I didn't have legs, maybe.
If you had super arms, wouldn't you just break all the controllers?
I don't know, the question's too abstract to give a straight answer to, let's be honest. So what's the next question, please?
Okay, Kevin Feely again.
Yep.
What is your build, height and weight as your wrestling alter ego, Richard Parliament?
Well, to be fair, it just varies depending on how outrageous the promoter wants to be. So I think it's gone from 5'9" to 6 foot, and obviously wrestlers have lifts on their boots as well, so you can get away with being a lot taller than what people think you are in the real world. People think you're taller because you're wearing lifts. Like I've heard Chris Jericho is something outrageous in real life, like 5'6" or something, and he just wears ridiculous lifts on his feet. Yeah. So you can get away with exaggerating your height, dramatically.
So what's the most ridiculous you've ever had, if you can remember?
Well, weight. It was something really stupid, like 16 stone or something like. It's 16 stone, so what's that for people in other countries? Because most people don't understand stone. That's a very British.
I actually have no idea.
Okay, so 10 stone is 140 pounds. Let's work this out. 5 stone would be 70 pounds. That's 210 pounds plus the extra 14, 224 pounds. So there you go. I've been billed as high as 224 pounds, which is bloody outrageous considering I've never been above 13 stone. So
half of Big Show's weight now.
Yeah, which stupid. So yes, next one, please.
Okay. Since Spaces asks, are there simply too many video games being released?
I don't think you can ever have too many video games, so I'm going to say no. The more choice, the better. However, you do get a lot of samey crap released. Like, how many first-person shooters do we need, for example? How many times do they have to release FIFA? How many times do they have to release WWE games, for example? Why do they have to release the same thing over and over? So yes, but we have a delightful amount of indie games these days. So I don't think you can have too many games. So yes, next.
Okay. Ian A. Chapman asks, considering you have multiple vintage consoles, how much maintenance does it take to keep them or their monitors in operational order? Also, do you have any consoles you won't play due to their rarity or condition?
No, I will literally play anything because I don't believe in owning stuff for rarity and condition. I think that's a pathetic thing to do. Like, why would you do that? Why would you own a system and not play it? That would be really weird in my opinion. But in terms of stuff what's broken, my bloody 3DO needs to be fixed, as you know. My ColecoVision needs fixing. Yeah. So I do have systems that have broke down. I don't think my Atari Lynx works at the moment, or Game Gear. So yeah, I've got plenty of bits and pieces that need some work. What was the rest of the question? How much maintenance?
Yeah.
A lot of maintenance. Well, not a lot, because that stuff's broken. I've just not got around to fixing it yet. But everything else seems to be fine. In fact, there's one system I avoid using, and that's not because it's rare. It's just because it's crap. And that's my NES. You've got that white flicker thing, and no matter how well you maintain them, it just keeps happening over and over. So I'd rather use some Chinese knockoff console to play my NES games on, because Chinese knockoff consoles are better than the real thing. So yes, I will avoid using NESs because they're just badly built. Next question.
There we go. Where are we? There. Michael Baker asks, what's your opinion of Dr. Mario, and do you have a favourite version of this game?
Dr. Mario... I find his medical credentials quite questionable. Like, has anyone actually ever seen Mario's PhD? And like, do you genuinely believe he would have time to study for a PhD when he's doing all that other crap, like saving princesses, riding go-karts, playing tennis, golf? He's up to all. He's worked as a carpenter. He's had so many shenanigans. I just don't believe he has a PhD. But apart from that, it's a decent puzzle game. Not as good as Tetris. So yeah, next question. Gentlemen, we just had a little jump up there. Basically, my camera can only shoot for 20 minutes at a time because that's another rule that's enforced by the European Union. Photo cameras can only shoot in this region up to 20 minutes. Otherwise, if it was longer than that, it would be a video camera instead, and you wouldn't want to confuse consumers, would you? No. So yes, let's do the last few questions,
anyway,
which I've already answered once, and I'm about to try and answer them again.
We'll come away from politics a little bit and go back into games. Or not by this next question. Next question is from Renchi247. What are your thoughts on furries?
My thoughts on furries, to be honest with you, can't say in reality I know a lot about them, so I can't truly form an opinion. The concept to me does seem rather strange to me, like I really don't get it, so maybe the only way I could really understand a furry is if I try and live the furry lifestyle perhaps for a few months and then form an opinion based on that. What do you think?
I think you should, and if you would like to see that, then just comment below.
Yes, you want to see me have a shot at the furry lifestyle. Should we dress up as furries and go to some furry conventions together and see what happens? Maybe,
why not?
Yes, let's try that potentially. Next.
Probably not.
No. Next.
Okay, next question is from Sean Johnson. What are your thoughts on games that are made into movies?
Games that are made into movies, well, from previous experience, that usually goes terrible, doesn't it? Like, I don't think I've ever seen a good film based on a movie, like, ever. It's just never happened, has it?
No, I'm trying to think of some now and not really.
No, it's one of those things that always goes horrible because usually games aren't plot driven, are they? Like, I can't really think of many games that have got a good enough plot to do a whole 90-minute film about.
Well,
I suppose you've got JRPGs, haven't you? They're very story driven, but they're like 40-hour stories, so could you condense them into 90 minutes? Probably not. And again, it works in reverse as well. Like, it's very rare that you get a good game based on a movie because most games with movie licenses are made to be released in line with the film, and due to that reason the developers have to work towards deadlines, so they normally just release some half-baked crap.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Although to be fair, the Super Mario Brothers film was the best Super Mario Brothers film ever made.
That is true. Very, very true indeed. I would agree with that one.
Yeah.
So what's the next question?
Next question is also the last question.
Oh,
it's
lovely.
From Audrey Sampson.
Okay.
What is your opinion on anime?
My opinion on anime? Similar to the furry question, I suppose. I can't really form that much of an opinion on it because it's not really one of my interests.
No.
Although I will say certain elements of it do scare me slightly, like the amount of young girls which are depicted as school children who run around in scantily clad, skimpy wear, I suppose would be the term. So it almost looks a bit paedophilic as a Westerner.
Yeah.
I know. Don't they have different laws in Japan regarding that? Isn't there like a younger age of consent?
I haven't researched it, to be honest, but it's a different culture. It
is a different culture, so I don't know whether anime really lines up with my Western values. That's what I'll say. So
that's fair.
Yes, that's for me. Like anime, I just feel I'm really too Western to enjoy it, and I'm someone who's travelled some of the East as well. I like the Eastern world. However, there's certain things that don't necessarily mix for me. Although I do like Dragon Ball Z, but even that I find a bit creepy sometimes. I must say.
You stick to the mainstream.
Yes, mainstream when it comes to television. Do I stick to the mainstream?
With anime, Pokemon.
Oh yes, with anime,
Ball.
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's my opinion on that. I don't really have one other than maybe I probably offended you now by insulting all anime. However,
judging by the picture next to this question, possibly.
Sorry, Audrey. Cheerio.
Born in London in 86, a stacho gent named Richard Parliament. He loves to wrestle, but he loves one more thing: handhelds round the world. He fights in his comments and he argues with fans. It's a problem no one understands. If there's two things he loves, it's getting at handhelds round the world. Drinking fine wine, fighting fanboys, handhelds round the world.
Top Hat Gaming Man.